I want to start with this in the Mail. The headline, Neville's disgusted dressing room leak. Chris Wheeler writes in the Mail this morning, as the unofficial shop steward of a tight-knit dressing room at Old Trafford, Gary Neville was not used to seeing some of the stories that are coming out from the current squad and did not pull any punches, as he described them as disrespectful and disgusting. Over the past week, it's emerged United players would rather Pochettino over Ten Hag as their new manager. They are said to be unhappy with interim boss Ralph Rangnick's training methods and have jokingly referred to his assistant as Ted Lasso, the fictional US soccer coach. Neville was said on a Sky Sports podcast, "I thought that was downright disrespectful. I did not find it funny at all." They were describing Ralph Rangnick's number 2 as Ted Lasso. Not only was it disrespectful, but I found it disgusting. It sums up what I think of them. They are disrespectful. Dressing room leaks, Darren. No team wants them. But is it ever preventable when there are so many players, so many coaches, so many people that work at a football club, for a manager or people above the manager to stop leaks coming out?
Yeah, because you just got to be careful who you tell at the end of the day, because, of course, as you said, if something happens in a dressing room, say as a bust-up, a fight, for instance, you know that obviously people are going to leave that dressing room. They're probably going to tell or maybe their loved ones, their friends, and sometimes that friend will then tell another friend. Do you know what I mean? And that's how it usually gets out. I mean, how it ends up at the papers is I've never understood that one, but it always comes out. I mean, there have been times where things haven't got out. Like, I've been at clubs where there has been a fight and it hasn't got out. Well, it's got out now because I've just said it, but like, it hasn't usually come out. But that's because you keep it really, really tight. But of course, when something happens, like he's saying there, like a rat in the camp, someone will say something, and then everyone hears it. Yeah,
Laura, there's been a lot of stories. I mentioned 3 stories there, didn't I, just in the last week?
Sorry. It was bad at Newcastle at one stage when Brucey was in charge, wasn't it?
Craig Hope in the Mail.
Oh my goodness, it kept coming out every week, didn't it? A different story.
How much, lots going wrong in the club at the moment on the pitch, but do you think this is just adding to the toxicity? I can't say my word.
Yes.
There we go. Toxicity.
Yeah,
that's harder though, as Piliqueta, isn't it? Adding to the bad feeling around the football club.
Yeah, but it's not what they need, is it? But I suppose it's a group of players that have seen so many managers come and go in recent times. I mean, even in the last couple of seasons, they keep seeing managers come and go, and maybe that they feel that there is a way that they maybe it's a way that they do operate there. Maybe this happens more than you think. These stories get leaked out, and then they know that change is going to happen. I understand it must be frustrating. As a player, Darren, you know that Ralph isn't going to be in for the long term, so you know it's a short fix. And if you don't like what he's doing and you don't agree with it, then maybe you're going to play up a little bit. But I thought David De Gea's comments publicly were really interesting, basically saying, we don't know what's wrong. We're asking each other what's happening here, and we can't put our finger on it. So it sounds like they're all a little bit lost at the moment. They don't, and they're looking to somebody for direction. They can't get it. But I agree. I think when it's getting a bit abusive, not abusive, that's probably the wrong word. When you're taking the mick of assistant managers or managers yourself, and there's all these leaks coming out, the last thing that you need in a area of work, doesn't matter what it is, when something isn't working, the last thing that you need to do is make it worse by leaking stories to the paper.
It's a little bit of a damning assessment as well. And Ralph Rangnick, if De Gea is coming out saying, we don't know what we're doing.
It was more, I think it's more like he doesn't know why what they're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make it work, but there's something missing, and they can't put their finger on what it is. But yeah, I mean, Gary knows, doesn't he? Gary also said in those comments that he knows who the people are that are leaking. And if you're that person this morning, you're like, oh, this is awkward, isn't it?
Quick phone call to Gary being like, please don't tell anyone, please don't tell anyone. But also,
if you're the journalist, you're like, Gary, why are you telling everyone that we've got an informant? That person's never going to come forward again and tell us any
They might
secret.
even come from an agent. I mean,
you're right.
As you said, it could be a player telling his wife, who tells his friend, who tells his uncle, who tells his grandma.
It could also be an agent or a player coming out who's not happy at Manchester United, telling his agent, and they're going, you know what, let's just put this out there so it looks like it could be anything.
But what does it achieve, Darren? Because you know that Ralph's not going anywhere. He's the interim manager to the end of the season. So what does it achieve? Is it covering their own backs more so because the performances haven't been good? So they're going, look, this is what's going on.
I think exactly that. Because if you start trying to shift the blame by saying, listen, we don't know what's going on, this is what's going on behind the scenes, then it's almost like, well, don't look at me, it's not my fault, it's his fault.
Responsibility off.
Kind of hang him out to dry.
It's not great, is it?
It's not good at all. There's a lot of other Man United stories as well on the back pages. Back at the Times, Ralph Rangnick has revealed that Man United are using the sports psychologist he brought to Old Trafford in an attempt to deal with the club's bad habit of throwing away leads. The last 3 games they took the lead ended up not winning. And a story on the back of the Express, Ralph Rangnick has warned under fire defender Harry Maguire his form has not been good enough and must improve. And the Man United interim boss even claimed Maguire is struggling to adapt to playing in a back four. He's having a tough season, Harry Maguire. Yeah. Should Ralph Rangnick keep persevering with him in the starting 11 all the time? Just say, Harry, out of form, take a bit of time out of the team, and we'll bring you back in a couple of weeks. How should Rangnick handle it?
As you said, he hasn't played well this season. Came back into the England squad, didn't he, in the summer after an injury. Did quite well, relatively well, doesn't he? But I think if it continues, I think Ralph Rangnick might have to go, do you know what, I've got to pull him out the firing line, because if he's costing you goals, costing you points, because he's been reliable. You'd have to say he's been quite reliable. I mean, I've never been his biggest fan, but he has been reliable. He's not let you down. If he keeps making the same mistakes, I think Ralph Rangnick's going to have to go, do you know what, I've got to put him out the firing line. But that's easier said than done, because you pull him out, you've got to put somebody in. So who do you put in?
I think that's probably what's saving him. The backup options, whether it's Lindelof or Bailly or Phil Jones, they're not great, are they?
No, so I think that's where Ralph Rangnick's a little bit like, well, Harry Maguire's form's not been great. And I reckon if they had, say, another starting centre-back that was maybe on the bench, I think he would have pulled him out already.
And the sports psychologist story, is that something that is that something that will help players giving away leads? Is that where the sports psychologist comes in and can be a big help?
I don't know if it's for giving away leads, because I think that just comes down to individual errors. I think, and lapses in concentration.
Yeah.
But for other reasons, like I remember Steve McLaren at Derby bringing in one, and just to talk to him about other stuff maybe helps you on the pitch as well. If it's not just about football-related incidents, it could be about anything. But to bring one in specifically for the fact that you keep conceding goals late, that's not going to work. That comes down to on the training pitch, individual coaching, players making mistakes and players switching off. That's nothing a psychologist can do about that.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday morning, 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.